Всім добрий вечір.
On behalf of the brave, on behalf of every father and every mother, wings for freedom. On behalf of our warriors, and paves the way for a new history.
Dobry вечер, good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to Tochnyi. We recognize an ally when we see them. We all recognize attempted intimidation when we see it. Support your friends, not your enemies. Make the right choice. These principles we inculcate into those younger than us, with the lives of millions under the US president's own choices, with millions of lives on the line. Welcome to Tochnyi. Please subscribe to Tochnyi on Blue Sky, X, YouTube. Please check out our website, which has many recent research posts, including an article by Erlend, extremely relevant to this week's events pertaining to potential scenarios facing any peacekeeping mission under the current status in bello by European troops in Ukraine. We genuinely really appreciate all of your support since we migrated from Elon's X over 2 years ago.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. We will now move to our colleague Bionade for a report. Mr. Bionade, over to you.
All right. So, we're gonna talk about a story today about the city of Mykolaiv. Most of you possibly have heard about the city in Ukraine's south. Mykolaiv water crisis. A city's fight for clean water. But for over 2 years, the people of Mykolaiv lived without it. This is a story of a city that lost its water overnight, the struggle to survive on salty, undrinkable supplies, and the fight to rebuild a clean water system from the ground up. On April the 12th, 2022, the day Mykolaiv water crisis began, a Russian missile strike destroyed the main water pipeline, cutting off 500,000 residents from the only fresh water source, the Dnieper River. The damage was catastrophic, impossible to fix quickly, and as the pipeline basically ran through occupied territory. Valentina, 74 years old, a Mykolaiv resident, stated, "I turned on the tap and nothing came out. I thought it was a temporary problem, but then we realized the water was gone." To avoid total collapse of the sewer system, authorities switched to pumping water from the southern Bak River. Before basically the city got the water from the Dnieper River, this was not possible anymore, so they decided, let's take the southern Bak River. But the problem here was the water was salty because it's in German it's called Brackwasser. I think in English Brackwasser water too. Basically, it's mixed seawater in bay areas with river water, and as you can imagine, the water is very salty. It corroded pipelines, ruined appliances, and also it is not drinkable. Doctors warned of potential health risks, especially for children and the elderly. Alexander Tsukhanov, official from Mykolaiv city, said, "We had two choices, shut off the supply and risk disease, or keep pumping salty water and destroy our pipes. It was a terrible decision to make." The salty water ruined washing machines, kettles and plumbing. It left stains on clothes and caused skin rashes after bathing. Residents had to buy expensive bottled water, which many couldn't afford. Maria, 45, mother of two, stated, "Even the tea tasted terrible. My children refused to drink it. Cooking became impossible. We were spending half of our money on water." So how did the people cope? Relatively quickly, they started setting up water distribution points, but as expected, the queues there were really, really long, several hours of waiting time. Different aid groups like Israel Aid, which is an Israeli NGO, set up filtration stations, but yeah, the supplies basically were limited. Especially the elderly suffered the most, carrying heavy water containers every day. It's really hard, and if you have been to Ukraine or in Eastern Europe and you know the architecture of especially the high-rise buildings from the Soviet times, it's often without elevators, so it's already not amazing. Ivan, 62, a retiree, stated, "My legs aren't what they used to be. Carrying water up 5 flights of stairs every day, it was a torture." In 2023, Denmark steps in to help. The Danish government announced a 7.2 million project to restore Mykolaiv's water system. The focus? rebuilding modern infrastructure that would be stronger and more resilient. So what was included in this project? 4 kilometers of new water pipelines were installed. Reverse osmosis filtration systems were set up, helping over 4,000 residents daily. We also will have an interview upcoming in the next week with one volunteer from an NGO which works in this area and helped setting up these filtration systems. He will bring a couple of more pictures and impressions from the time there and how the city looked and what they have done. Yeah, so new energy efficient water pumping stations were built in heavily damaged areas. And yeah, basically many organizations were involved. So Denmark gave 7.2 million, the International Organization for Migration, which is a UN-related organization, NGO. They installed pipelines and boreholes for fresh water. Also, if you're interested, on the website of the International Organization for Migration are many of these stories, and the quotes I'm reading out here are often from these kind of reports. It's very human approach in their reporting. As I mentioned, Israel established community water purification systems, producing over 10 million liters of safe drinkable water. The European Investment Bank gave 20 million for Mykolaiv water system. UNICEF and the Red Cross provided bottled water and emergency filtration systems. Danish Refugee Council supplied water pipes and water pumps. The IMAP Incorporation created a system to track water availability and coordinate aid efforts. An organization called Water Mission installed safe water systems in hospitals, schools, and shelters. CORE, the community organized relief effort, restored water infrastructure and provided humanitarian relief. And many other organizations were involved, but we cannot mention them all. In early 2025, some districts have finally clear water again. The Korabelny district is one of the first to regain a reliable supply, but full restoration is still ongoing. The entire city system is expected to be fully operational by late 2025. Pedro, 68, a retired teacher, said, "I've thought I'd cry seeing clear water from my tap again, but here we are. Finally." The story of Mykolaiv isn't just about water. It's about survival, it's about resilience, and the long road to recovery. The fight isn't over yet, but for the first time in years, hope is flowing again. This was the story of the city of Mykolaiv, a city that refused to give up. We hope end of 2025, there will be a full city-wide pipeline restoration and a stable supply everywhere. And projected is in 2027. That there will be a new advanced water treatment facility completed and Mykolaiv will have water again. And all this happened because of one missile strike on an important pipeline, a Russian missile strike, obviously. If anyone has any questions?
Oh yeah, I guess I'm kind of obsessed with like low power water purification for my own lunatic reasons. So I don't know, just kind of interesting stuff. Like there's something called a ram pump, right? That I assume being implemented. I saw one ram pump for sure. A ram pump is like a way to get water pressure without power. And you basically need a flowing water source. So Ukraine has a lot of rivers, so it's no problem for them. If you're in a place without water or you don't have a river, it's not really useful. But basically like you use like a one-way valve with like a spring in it. It's a very simple way to make this. You can like look on YouTube if you're like really interested in the mechanics of it, but it's very ingenious. And what it does is it kind of like stops the water just like every couple of seconds. And it uses that effect of the water stopping, and that causes pressure. It's called a hammer effect. When you like stop flowing water, builds up pressure. And you can channel that buildup of pressure into another channel where you can like send that water uphill. So you can get about 10% of that flowing water if you're really efficient, usually about 5 if you're not. You can get about 5 to 10% of that water flowing up a really steep incline or like high up in a water tower or whatever you need to do. You need about 14 PSI, if that means anything to people, using this method called a ram pump. So I assume that they're using like ram pumps. And then of course there's like a lot of DIY or, low power water filtration systems. But once you have, most of the low power water filtration stuff is gravity powered. So if you have a ram pump, you can get your stuff high up and then you can put it through like, usually it's going through sand and charcoal and a few other things to filter it to get it, drinkable. So yeah, Ukraine, thankfully they have a lot of rivers, and that makes the setup like this, like a low power ram pump, gravity filtration setup very feasible. So I don't know, just it's a very interesting topic to me, and I of course wish people the best of luck. It's a difficult situation that they're in, and it requires a lot of ingenuity, I think, to get water in that situation. So best of luck to Ukrainians in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as I said, it's sometimes something so important but so trivial like water, which can have this influence. And you can see, it's projected 2027 to have everything done in the city, and having like a kind of the status quo back, just because of this one strike. Things we often don't see and hear that much of the war. Not only strikes on military targets and military facilities and hospitals have big damage. Sometimes it's even a missile just hitting a field in nowhere, and there's a water pipeline. All right.
Yeah, I just want to point out, Alex in chat mentioned that he's a contributor to Tochnyi, that Russia is very frequently rationing water in the occupied territories. They've never really rebuilt the water infrastructure to any reasonable degree. And there are many reports from the occupied territories that water is very, very hard to come by.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another story, right? Like Ukraine's infrastructure in the occupied territories is like completely done. Cannot expect Russia to do something about it. Any more questions from the chat?
Oh, we got a ram pump fan, but yeah, the points that are being got pumps are correct, right? You need like a river. You're only able to capture a little bit of that flow and turn it into pressure. You're going to lose, like you can't just bring all your water uphill magically with this pump system. You can only capture maybe 5% of it. The rest of the water is just going to go through the river normally or go down, like it's not going to go up. So yeah, there's a big limitation on ram pumps, but Ukraine, I was just pointing out, has a very strong advantage because they have so many rivers. They can utilize this technology a lot better than say me in Arizona, right? It's a great technology, very interesting. Check it out on YouTube if you guys are interested about ram pumps. But there's a lot of innovative solutions I've seen used in Ukraine for like low power stuff. And I'm always interested in that topic, as people might know. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be an even bigger issue this year because as we discussed earlier, or it was in my news report, the USAID program that helped Ukraine's power grid, that was a very big program that helped Ukraine a lot. And so it's going to be very difficult for Ukraine this winter. And water and electricity are going to be hard to come by, I think, if the Russian strikes continue like they did the last 2 winters. So I really feel for all the Ukrainians going through that situation, and best of luck to all the international organizations doing their best to come up with engineering solutions to help these people deal with the problem.
And since I'm hearing thank you from the chat. Thanks for always listening and listening to these stories. Also, I want to thank our dear editors, which video editors it is, which made this amazing footage. Really nice.
Any last stuff, Bionade, about this topic before we wrap it up?
Yeah, upcoming interview with a person who was there and helped setting up some systems, an NGO which is just starting, also in other areas in Ukraine, active, barely working on these kind of things. We will have in the next weeks about this topic.
Okay, well, we look forward to that. Chat, if you have any maybe questions you want to throw Bionade's way, things that might tell him what you guys are interested in about the interview, feel free, I think, to pop it in the comments or in the chat. Thanks, Bionade, for this presentation. I think it was a good topic to cover. It's something that we don't see a lot in media reports, but it's like a very real issue in Ukraine every day.
On behalf of the brave.